I think macroevolution is false on the merits, and the perfect designs of living beings and idea of origin of life from stagnant warm water itself prove it's so primitive. Lack of thoughts and replacement of God to natural selection. And there is no difference between God and natural selection. Both have unlimited resources and powers for creation. Both are actually imaginary. When you look at the evidence for macroevolution, I don't only think the evidence is weak for macroevolution. There's very strong evidence against it. If you believe in an old Earth and that the Bible doesn't really prescribe a certain age of the Earth, or any divine books doesn't have any information. So, I just want to know how you kind of knit together the idea of like old Earth, the Genesis account, perhaps even evolution. Is there a historical Adam, whatnot? Of course, I believe in a historical Adam, and I think God created Adam out of the dust just like it says. Makes a lot more sense than natural laws did it, right? As this suggests intelligent mind and design. But it can't be man created God, as even having immense power he failed to help humans when in need. But hybrid design is there, so there must be some super intelligent creator? I think macroevolution is false on the merits. When you look at the evidence for macroevolution, I don't only think the evidence is weak for macroevolution. There's very strong evidence against it. I'll just give you a few real quickly with the acronym LIFE. LIFE. L stands for the fact that there's a limited capacity for change. Like for example, dog breeders try and breed dogs, right? And they can get a dog as small as a Chihuahua and as large as a Great Dane. But even with all their intelligence, they can't break the genus of dogs. Why do we think a non-intelligent process can break that gen can break those limits? Doesn't make any sense, right? Irreducible complexity. That stands for irreducible complexity. And Michael B. introduced this back in 1996 with his book Darwin's Black Box, where he points out that there are so many aspects of living things that you can't build gradually, that they're irreducibly complex, that all the pieces and all the parts have to be in place in working order to have any function at all. You can't get there gradually. Like Richard Dawkins talked about, well, maybe our eyes were developed through some sort of gradual process, where we had at first sort of light-sensitive cells, and then they eventually evolved into an eye. What Dawkins doesn't seem to realize is that light-sensitive cells are irreducibly complex themselves, and that to get to an eye, light-sensitive cells aren't a prerequisite to an eye, and you'd have to have vision the whole way through with all the parts there at the same time. So it doesn't work. The F stands for the fact that the fossil record does not comport with macroevolution. And it comports with instantaneous creation because according to their dating the Cambrian explosion, where most major body phyla or body plans appear, they appear in the geological record about 530 million years ago in a geological instant. And if we look back since the formation of Earth, we see intelligent design of our solar system and addition of Moon. DART mission is answer to this correction. A guided, well-calculated mission to create Moon. With knowledge, wisdom, and means it's possible to work under universal laws. It looks more like creation rather than this long series of gradual fossils that we should find if macroevolution were true. This is a great problem for Darwin. He said, if my theory is true, why isn't the geological strata filled with all these intermediate fossils? He said, but don't worry, we'll investigate it, and well, I'll be vindicated. Well, for the past 160 years, we've been investigating the fossil record, and Darwin isn't vindicated. Okay, there are huge gaps in the fossil record. And E stands for something known as epigenetic information. And that is the idea that there's structures in the cell that are required for life, and for the cell to function that can't be modified by mutating DNA. And you can't modify epigenetic information by mutating it. In other words, maybe an analogy would be if you have a software program in your computer, say an architecture program to build a house, you can come up with a plan to build the house. But is the architecture program going to give you the nails, the wood, the lumber, the concrete to build the house? No. The architecture program is far behind DNA. DNA is software which self-generate the hardware of a living thing, which is called epigenetic information. And in order to get a new body plan, you need to modify epigenetic information. The problem is if you try and modify epigenetic information early on in the embryotic process, the living thing dies. It's lethal. So this is why on November 7th, 2016 in London, the Royal Society called together a meeting, and the premise of the meeting was the Darwinian theory of evolution doesn't work. We need to find a new theory. So they all met there in 2016. They pointed out several problems with neo-Darwinian theory, and they didn't come up with a new theory because there isn't one. So, not only is the evidence for Macroevolution weak in my opinion, there's evidence against it, and I just gave you 4. I think we can find more. In my few days of research, which at the beginning the Darwin's theory suggested perfect even by all AIs, I asked for reference. I think ALs often misguide you if you believe them. Okay. So, I don't think it works. I just don't think it's true based on the merits. We observe that universe works within universal laws. And there is no creator of these laws. These laws come into existence only if conditions are met. And certainly conditions are interdependent for universal laws. So would you say that just the world probably developed for a few million years, and then God just put Adam in just a random set of time? But the correction theory suggests how Earth is designed with corrections and errors. If God is there and He is perfect, then why we see corrections? Because what humans define as God doesn't exist. The extinction of dinosaurs is clear-cut planned event. Again, it's simple if you have wisdom, knowledge, and means. That impact can be planned to hit Earth. Recently, Mission DART is the proof. Well, it wasn't random according to super intelligent creator. Of course, I don't know when Adam came into existence. There's all sorts of different theories. So, there's a lot of different views. And whichever side you come down on, it's certainly moving towards the end of all man-made religions. It's much simpler to understand you hired a painter to paint your house. Give an advance. And then he never turned up, and then stopped taking your calls. You will wait, but ultimately you understand your money is gone. So it's been long since all have faith in their respective God. But God never showed up. But logic says there is someone super intelligent creator. Sanatana says don't believe, find the truth. Your karma will pay you, and not worshiping your God. Not a single person on this earth can explain if ever God is there, and as described in all man-made religions he is capable, but still he never ever helped. All this actually proves incapacity of God, who never existed. So science can never prove the origin of life from nothing, nor it can prove singularity as the beginning.